We good to go?
You are good to go. You're
Okay,
on.
thank you, thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Groveland Board of Selectmen meeting. Could you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which represents one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to call our meeting to order at 6:30. First on our agenda is our public comment, and I know Mr. Hodges would like to make a public comment. So if you'd like to come to the microphone, that would be great. Thank you.
I used to walk a little faster. Not anymore. Dick Hodges, 35 Union Street. I filled out this survey.
You're gonna hit green on the mic.
Oh, sorry about that. We didn't set that up.
Okay. Dick Hodges, 35 Union Street. I filled out the survey. I finally found it on, I went looking on the Groveland
The website?
website, and I'm not into all of the things they ask you to do. They've got that funny little square that you're supposed to do something, so I finally Googled it, and I got a copy,
Okay.
and I went ahead and filled it out. When we first moved to Groveland, which was many moons ago, $500 covered my mortgage and the taxes. The house is now paid for, and we're one of the lucky ones. We only pay $7,200 a year in taxes. There are dozens of families in town that pay $10,000 a year in taxes. So my biggest question for the board is, why are we so low on funds? It seems to me, I'm doing my part. We're no longer a family of six. All four boys are adults and have moved out. So it's just my wife and I, and we're not going to break the bank on anybody's garbage account. We do fill up 2 barrels on the recycling. We're pretty consistent with that, and we're pretty careful with the recycling. So I guess I'm wondering, why are we... Ed, a few weeks ago, I was watching the selectmen's meeting ask a question, and his second question, neither one got answered. And so I knew if it wasn't being answered, there was indeed an answer. And his question was, why are we in this financial situation? And it's with the automated, his question was more about the saving of $150,000 and where is that money going? And there was no one here to answer that question. Now, as someone who sat by the TV and watched that bothered me, because his second question, I think it was about a week or so later, was related to, and in some ways it really was the answer. He said, why are we not putting this to a town vote? Now, a town vote allegedly could get upwards of 1,000 people that would tell you exactly how they feel about this. The survey, people are busy. People are sending their kids off to wrestling, basketball, hockey, all kinds of practices and sport programs. And I think that the survey is, you're going to get less results. You're going to get hundreds of results instead of potentially thousands if we had a vote. So Ed's question, I thought his second question actually probably answered the first one. The reason we're doing this is I'm not sure we really want to know how the town feels about this. because if we did, we would put it to a town vote. It just seems that if we really want to know what the heart of Groveland feels about this, then why not put it to a town vote and let people come down here at their leisure, their convenience, and vote up or down for this automated trash pickup. I guess if I was driving the truck, I would probably like the fact of not getting out of the truck and having to lug all that stuff. But these guys are a lot younger than I am, and their back is a lot stronger than mine is right now. So we leave a bottle of water and have for over a year. We leave it out for the guy that comes on Wednesdays. And maybe to a certain extent, Groveland's a little spoiled because we actually have pickup 5 days a week. Union Street pickup is on Wednesdays. So we try to get things out and ready by Tuesday, and we leave a water for the guy. I think he appreciates that. But it seems to me that we have enough money, and I'm sure Rebecca, with her ability to handle Excel, has gone through and listed all of the companies and how much, if we changed companies, how much that would cost us. But somewhere along the line, we came up with $150,000 of savings. And I have the same question that Ed had. Where is that money going to go if we're saving it? And we still don't seem to have an answer for that. Is that money going to be used to buy the new barrels that will? Because if that's true, then we're not saving anything. We're paying the company for barrels, for recycling, and for garbage.
Okay, so have you covered every question you have at this point? Because we can't engage with you during public comment. That's the policy, is you're allowed to raise your questions and concerns, make your
Okay.
statements, and I took note of your questions and concerns and your statements. And then
Okay.
we can have them on.
I'll go home and watch the rest of the meeting on TV
Okay.
and see how things go. I'm always questioning everything, not just this board, but I watch the trash meetings. I watch the finance meetings. I try to stay on top of things. But I think those are my basic questions, which really have not had any answers. But I still think that if you were really serious about finding how the town feels about this, you would have a town vote and not just a survey. Because I think surveys, you'll be lucky to get a few hundred as opposed to a few thousand if we were able to have a vote. That's what I would do if I really wanted to know what the town of Groveland thinks about this new automated idea. And I'm not one of these people that, I get the impression by listening to some of the meetings that we're trying to be like other towns or other cities, and I kind of like Groveland just the way it is. I'm not trying to be anybody else other than Dick Hodges, and I'm not trying to see that Groveland's going to be any different than Groveland. But I get the impression that there are people here that want Groveland to change and do things like other towns and other cities do. And I'm just not one of those kind of people. So I think I've talked about the two questions that were on my mind, and I thank you for the time.
And I thank you for your questions, and I thank you for your service to the town over the years on the different committees, school committee and others. We appreciated your time.
Well, now that you mention that, the PSA is a love-hate. I have a love-hate relationship with that because I liken that to the challenges that we have economically in Groveland, the trash being one. It could be the school budget this year, maybe next year. And what we have in the left pocket is the PSA. I think I have those letters right.
The CPA, you mean?
CBA.
Gotcha. Actually, I
CBA.
knew what you were talking about.
Okay.
It's fine.
And what's in that left pocket could easily solve the problem. Now, we had a dog for 17, almost 17 years that never saw a dog park. I think we have probably one of the most beautiful dog parks I've ever seen. But it was never on my top priority list that, by golly, we got to have a dog park. But since other towns have dog parks, I guess we do. And so I have kind of a love-hate relationship with, we have the answer with what's in my left pocket, but what's ever in my left pocket, we're told can't ever get into my right pocket to solve the problem. And I have a problem with that because I'm paying $7,200 for what? A year. And some are paying $10,000 with the same question, for what?
Okay,
So may the force be with you.
thank you. Have a nice evening. Okay, any further public comment? There being none, okay, I'll move along. Do we have any department comments or updates? Is that where the town clerk is going to speak? Okay, so all of the information, well, wait a minute. You're going to speak on the election updates and then again on discussion possible vote? So should we just kind of keep you rolling once you get there? Okay, so then let me just say, what the town clerk is going to update us on the election under department comment and then go right into our discussion and possible vote part of the agenda. And she's going to discuss a roadway name corrections that we have included in our packets, as well as a retention of minutes as permanent records policy. And that would be items 2 and 3 under discussion and possible vote. Following that, we have item 4, hours to sell alcohol, a change for the Mary Mart on Salem Street. 5 is the hazard mitigation plan, and I believe you must be here for that? Are you here for that? Oh, you're Mary Mart. Okay, so nobody's here from hazard mitigation. Oh, you are. I'm so sorry. I'm mixing faces. I see different faces, and I go, they're here for a reason. Okay. Have a nice evening, Dick. And then an update on the MBTA Communities 3A zoning requirements. There's a meeting coming up on January 30th, and I asked our town administrator to just give us another overview of that important meeting. So, town clerk is going to be on for department comment on the town election, and then go right into roadway name corrections, and after that, the retention of minutes. We probably should have gotten our table, sit at it. Are you okay with this, Denny? And, yeah, okay, thank you.
So thank you for the opportunity to present the information.
Mike's off again.
Oh, did you hit the button?
Thank you.
Okay, when,
All right, so thank you for the opportunity to present the information regarding the 2025 local election. The information that I'll give you here tonight is also on the website, the offices that are open for election, as well as the dates on the calendar. So the nomination papers will be available starting Tuesday, January 14th, for people to pick up. The last day to pick up nomination papers will be Thursday, March 13th, and a minimum of 34 signatures is required on nomination papers from the registered voters in the town in order for your nomination papers to be accepted for the position. The last day to return nomination papers with the signatures is Monday, March 17th. The last day to withdraw your nomination papers, if you choose to change your mind, is Wednesday, April 2nd. And the deadline to register to vote for all the residents is Friday, April 18th. So the following are the lists that are going to be on the, will be elected this year, that are eligible for the election. There are 2 positions on the Board of Assessors, one for a 3-year term and one for a 2-year term. The Select Board has 1 open position for a 3-year seat. The Board of Health has 1 position for a 3-year seat. The Library Trustees have 3 positions for 3-year seats each. The Cemetery Commission has 1 position for a 3-year seat. The Electric Light Commission has 1 position for a 3-year seat. The Housing Authority will have 1 position for a 5-year seat. The Moderator has 1 position for a 1-year seat. The School Committee has 1 position for a 3-year seat. The Town Clerk has 1 position for a 3-year seat. And Water and Sewer Commission has one position for a 3-year seat. We will schedule a candidate night as we get closer to the election. The woman who organized it last year is willing to come back and assist us this year. So it went very well last year. Hopefully, we will have a good night this year as well, to give the candidates an opportunity to express their reasons for running for office and have good discussion.
Yep. Great.
And then last, I would hope that people would take a look at one of these 14 seats and please pull out papers, get involved, and run for the open seats in town. And that's it for election.
Great.
Now, do you want to move into? the
Yes, okay,
topic
so.
Presentation?
Yeah, unless, does anyone have any questions on the election? I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, yes, next comes the roadway name corrections.
Okay, so the town clerk's office has done some research regarding discrepancies in the roads in town. You were given a list. I don't know if there's any way that that list could be shown so that the residents could take a look at what's, some of the changes that we're looking for. So we put together a list of 10 streets that are on your documents. The clerk's office met with the town administrator, the town council, Lisa Mead, Sam Jocelyn, and the Chief Gillen regarding how best to resolve some of the discrepancies. According to Lisa Mead, the select board has the general control over roadways, and the select board can choose to either mend/clarify street names at their discretion. Sam Jocelyn also offered to talk to Chief Gillen regarding 2 of the roadways that just need a 911 correction, and that would be Arrowhead Drive and Estee Way. They're currently listed as Arrowhead Lane and Estays with an S Way. So those 2 he's going to ask 911 to change, because that's the only discrepancy. When we met with Sam, he also agreed with the clerk's recommendation that the least disruptive change for the roadways that we're asking you for is to change what was originally voted at a town meeting. We would like to stay consistent with what's on the street signs and the 911 list. And in some cases, the assessor and the treasurer also match that. So the following are the streets that we are asking you to vote on tonight. So there are 5. Knox Street, with a vote to change the name to Knox Ave, and that would match the clerk's street list, the assessors, the treasurers, the registry, the 911 list, and the street sign. River Pines Road, with a change to the name of River Pines Drive, which would then match the assessor, the treasurer, the 911, and there isn't a street sign out there currently. Merritt Street, with a vote to change to Merritt Ave, which would also match the clerk's street list, the 911 list, and the street sign. Stevenson's Way, with a vote to change it to Stevenson's Way with a V as opposed to a PH, and that would match the clerk's list, some of the registry records, 911, and the street list. And then the last one is Wood Ave, with a vote to change it to Woods Ave with an S, and that would match the clerk's street list, the 911, and the street sign. There are a couple of additional streets that we would ask the treasurer and the assessor to possibly make changes to their software system to designate what's on the 911 list and the streets. And that's Lindsay's Way, Pineo Ave, Scotland Yard Estates, and Zachary Path, along with 3 of the streets above, which were the Merritt, Stevenson's, and Wood. And then lastly, just as a mention that Mass General Law, Section 85, or Chapter 85, Section 3, there is a right of appeal to the residents after you've voted this change, if you vote them. Okay. Do you have any questions on, in your packet, we also gave you copies of the town meetings where the streets were voted, so you have that. And then you have our list of what was accepted, how the roadway was accepted, the date of the town meeting, what the clerk's list has, what the assessor has, what the treasurer has, what the registry of deeds has, what the 911 list shows, and what the street signage is. We also spoke to Vitals regarding, or we confirmed with Lisa Mead, our town council, that any information on Vitals would not be affected if the name changed on the street for someone who was doing research in the future. And if somebody owns a property and their deed currently shows it with one description as opposed to another, when they sell their home or make any updates with the Registry of Deeds, those changes can be made in accordance with what you vote here tonight, or if you vote tonight.
Okay. So questions?
No. I don't have any.
No, it's just a lot of research. I see things here from 1985,
Yeah.
so you were really digging for this.
Well, we've had questions come up over time when people describe it different ways, so we
Right.
dug in to find out when it was changed, when it was and what it was
Right.
at different points of time.
So I do have some questions.
Okay.
Because I saw that what happens is the people on these streets then have to get their licenses changed,
If
and that's a
they
pain in
have-
the neck.
Yes, it is.
And how will they know that they need to get their license changed?
We have to send them a letter. Part of this vote to change,
So
if you take a look at what
how
Lisa
many
Mead
people are
sent
we,
us,
yeah, how many people do we need to notify?
I don't have that number.
Okay, because we would need to have a budget for that, right?
Yep. I
Yeah.
can get you,
Yeah, I would like to know, I understand where you're coming from on this. I totally get it, and actually, you know, my husband being on the fire department for years, there was a lot of confusion on street names, and we have a lot of street names that are very similar. Is this it? This is the only list of streets that have these issues, or is there more? Are there more, probably?
this is it. This should be it. If
Yeah.
additional
Yeah.
research shows something else in the future, we went through the 911 list, we went through our street list,
Yeah.
we drove around, I will say Julie drove around town and looked at all the street signs in town.
Oh, good for you.
Verify.
That's like the only way, isn't it? It's true. You have to drive to the street and actually look at the sign and actually see what we decided to put on that street sign. Sometimes it's interesting. So,
So this is as comprehensive a list as we could come up with at this point for you.
okay. And what triggered this? What made you guys start to think that this would be something we'd have to straighten out?
Because when people go to the registry and change their information, they put down what they think the name of their street is as opposed to road, lane,
Okay.
and drive, and it's not, and I have to switch it back, and then I send them out a letter based on what we have in our records. And
Okay.
It happens frequently.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's why it would pop up in your office. Okay, I get that. So could we get the number of people that are involved? Because if it's, they do have the right of appeal, right? Because if it's over 25 years, and it doesn't take that many of them to appeal and say, we don't want you to do this.
Correct. They have 30 days after you vote to appeal, yes.
Right, but if we notified them, we might let them know that this is why we're trying to do it. It might kind of head off a bunch of appeals and a bunch of having us, you know, I would hate to go forward with this and then have to revote some streets.
I agree, this is a
Yeah.
serious issue to be
Right,
considered
right,
not lightly before you vote it.
yes. And I was curious, just on the River Pines Road, where did River's Edge come out to the Registry of Deeds? How did that name ever get? That sounds like it's like another street in town. I'm afraid to think about that too much.
River's Edge, we're not doing anything with it all. It's just River Pines is the road to the back.
Yeah, but doesn't, if it's under the column of Registry of Deeds, that means the Registry of Deeds calls it River's Edge? Is that what that means, if it's in that column? That's what I think that's what you mean, based on your research.
It may have been described on, I'll double check, I guess,
Yeah.
I'll say on that one.
I was just curious, because it sounded similar to,
We do have a River's Edge in town, so. it
we
wasn't
do?
ju-
Okay.
Yeah,
It's over by Shanahan. And it's not a public, it's not an accepted roadway yet, but there's,
Okay. Yes.
so did we just mix it up in our,
Oh, no, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it sounded familiar to me for some reason, but all of these names I recognize as, the private ways we wouldn't do anything about, right?
No.
We won't touch those, okay. But the public ways, what we'd be doing is bringing them into alignment with the clerk's office, the assessors, the treasurer, and the 911 and all that. It would make sense, I would think we'd want to inform people if, so they would change their driver's license.
if they needed to, right?
If they needed to, or they don't need to?
If it's incorrect, they need to, but they might have the correct information currently
Oh,
on
okay,
their
like the
license.
Stevenson way, some people might actually have it spelled
Actually have
correctly.
it properly,
This
correct.
could be
So
very,
they may not have to do anything, right?
okay,
But for those who would, for the changes that you make, if it doesn't match what the residents currently have, then yes, they would have to go and change it.
okay, so we would have, we should notify these people, I would think, if we're going to change their name to the right name. And notify them that if then their license has a different name on it, they would want to change that.
They
That's
would
what you're
need to,
saying?
correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Well, I mean, it's up to the board here. I'd like to get a list of how many people are involved in this change and what it would take to notify them, so they can check out their license and see.
Right, if they're right.
Well, the notification's gonna go out.
It's not like everybody's watching our television show. We know that we have a fairly wide audience of 12 people. So we get more response on lots of other things, and so this one, I would think, if it doesn't cost too much to notify them, would be a good idea. What does the board think?
So to notify them of the potential change?
That's what I want to clarify.
Yes, that's
Okay.
what I'm thinking, yeah, because otherwise we could get you know what I mean? Like, I'd
Right.
rather know in advance if somebody's going to strongly object. I don't know that anybody has a real big issue with us correcting something that is confusing and affects 911. I would think they'd want it corrected. But, just to make sure, I'd rather not have to revote.
All right, so we'll be happy to send out a letter to all of the addresses on the roads that we're looking to change, that there's a potential change, what it would be. and
Yes.
To contact our office, the clerk's office, the town administrator's office. Who do you want to get the responses on that? Do you want them to come to your email to get the responses on it so that you know what's going on?
What do you think? What's the board's thinking? Do you want the emails to come to us? You want it to go to town administrator, town clerks? How many people do we want to flood? I don't know that anybody's going to have a real problem, but,
No, when you're looking at these streets, there's not a great amount of people that live on these streets.
Right. There-
right, I don't think they have a
And-
huge population.
And as listed on the town clerk's sheet, most of them are listed that way. If you match it up with the street sign, so they probably don't have any problem with it anyway.
They may not.
Hmm?
They might not, but I would think if it's something that could affect your license,
Right.
as a courtesy, it would be good to know.
Yeah, I'll be happy to send it out, just,
Yeah,
you know, who
I-
you
I
want
just
them to
think that-
contact
that
on the return.
As, I agree with you about changing this, because this is confusing, and thank you for driving around to figure us out. So, is the board okay with just waiting for the results of sending a letter out?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
And where do you want comments to go to? Well, since we asked for it, they can send it to the selectman email if they want,
Okay.
or they
I'll
can
put
call
mine on it
you
as well.
or town. I'm comfortable either way. I just don't want to give you more work.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you mention when we would vote based on, like, are you going to give them a timeline?
What do you think, give them like 2 weeks? We meet every 2 weeks, so if the letter goes out, the meeting after the next meeting, we could vote.
Okay.
Next meeting's on Tuesday, so skip that and go 2 weeks from there.
Does that give them enough time to respond and get back?
That would give them a lot if it went
You can
out.
give them 30 days. If the appeal process is 30 days, you could give them at least the courtesy of 30 days to
Okay,
respond.
30 days is fine. I'm comfortable
Right.
with that.
Okay.
Again, this has been unfortunately in place for
It's been
over
going- it's-
25 years.
Right, it's been a long time, even for us to put this together and finally come to you. It's been a
Yes,
project
I
that's been
appreciate
on
that.
the wish list for a while.
And it's confusing. Okay, so that's street listing, and the next thing on your agenda is, policy on minutes, correct? Oh, do you need us to take a vote now? Do you want a vote of us to say, okay, to go ahead with the letter?
You could vote to, yeah, either that or,
Okay.
what,
And someone make that into a motion?
so a vote to notify the residents of a potential change?
Right, I can make the motion. I'll ask the town clerk to please vote, notify the residents of the potential change and the reason for it, and give them 30 days to respond back if they consider this a hardship.
I'll second that.
Any more discussion?
Nope.
Okay, there being none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Yep.
Oh, are you with or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
no,
Yeah, it's unanimous. Okay, and sorry, I apologize. I just looked quickly. Next on the agenda is the policy on minutes.
Correct.
Yes, and,
So minutes are mandatory permanent documents as per the municipal records retention. The problem is that the open meeting law doesn't describe who is the keeper of those permanent records. Now, in most cases, the town clerk's office is the keeper of all permanent records, or most permanent records.
right,
So currently, the boards and committees don't always submit their minutes to the clerk's office to have them stored permanently. So I don't know where they're storing those minutes, since they are not obligated to let us know where they're storing them. And questions have come up in the past when I've asked for copies of minutes, and people have said, with a change in leadership, they have no idea where the prior minutes are. So we are in violation of not storing our minutes properly. So other communities have voted to make the clerk's office the permanent location for storage for minutes. And we have a website, and that's where I would like to be able to store the minutes. Most of the boards and committees don't have access to that website, so therefore they would send them to the clerk's office and I would post them. And that the town administrator does already post all the select board minutes to the website. So I'm not looking to step on anybody's toes that's already accounting for and storing their minutes, but most of the boards and committees do not turn in their minutes, and I have no idea where they permanently keep those records.
okay, but, so, do we have an example of a policy from another town?
I don't.
Okay, because it would be good to see, like, what other towns are saying in their policy. I agree with you, it'd be nice to have some consistency in the storage of minutes. I'm just wondering how to make it easy and like one click away, you know, so that people aren't sending them to multiple sites.
Right, which is why if they send them to the clerk's office,
Is that what everyone does right now, that's doing them?
yes.
Okay, so they send them to you,
And we post them on the website and we keep a hard copy.
and you post them on the town website then?
Correct.
Okay, so that's what's going on now for people that do it, right?
Correct.
So this change would say to people that are not doing it that they have to do it as well?
Correct. It would give me more authority to say to them, you need to
Oh, 'cause we have a
submit
town
your minutes
policy.
to the
I
town
gotcha.
clerk's office to be posted to the website.
Okay.
Right now, the open meeting law doesn't back that up. It just says that the boards and committees are responsible for the permanent records.
Right, okay, and so when we don't have the records and someone asks for them, then we're in trouble?
Correct.
Okay, I understand that, that makes sense. It'd be good to have an example of a policy, how it would be worded, so that it'd be easy for the clerk, easy for the people doing the minutes. What do you think? Yes, go ahead.
Look, this is a no-brainer. The town clerk's office is the keeper of the records.
Yes,
So they should be turned in somehow to the town clerk's office, so that if somebody requests a copy, they can go to the town clerk's office. And I don't know if you need to look at another policy from other municipalities. It makes sense. The clerk's office is the keeper of the records, and they should have the records, and I don't know where the discussion is on that. It just
Because-
makes sense.
the clerk is asking us to vote a policy. We don't have a policy. Do you want to draft a policy for our next meeting? And we'll just add them to the town policies.
Well, you don't need, you can just vote the policy. Look, that the committees turn their paperwork over to the town clerk's office.
Okay.
It's a simple one-sentence thing.
All due
I
respect,
don't know
I
if you
think
need a lot of discussion on it.
we don't need a lot of discussion. We do need to have a policy that we can read and review and then say, yes, this is going to be the policy. And how many days after their meeting do they have to be submitted? And that kind of thing. I would think those things are covered in other town policies.
Do you want town council to write the policy so there's no?
I don't think they need to write it. I think you can grab a few off of like the Mass Municipal website, and they probably have them right there. And I just want to make sure we have all the i's dotted and the t's crossed, okay, they're going to submit them. At what date after their meeting are these minutes due? How do they submit them to you? If they come in with a piece of paper, is that going to be acceptable? We need to cover the bases on what's going to happen. And yeah, I agree. I think some consistency would be a great idea. I'm 100% behind this. I just want to make sure we write it down so that it can be followed, so that we don't have boards complaining to us that they don't know how to follow the policy because there's no policy, because it's one sentence.
You can't really say after a certain time frame after a meeting, because the records can't get released until after the next meeting when they're voted on to, you vote on to release the minutes or to approve the minutes. So that needs to be, you don't do it before the minutes are approved.
Right.
In case there's some amendments to it, errors, which in this board, we found errors occasionally in the minutes.
Yes, and so you need to put that wording into the policy, that upon acceptance of the minutes, then they are submitted.
Madam
So,
Chair, if I
yes.
may say, this policy that you see up on the screen is from Lakeville, Massachusetts.
Okay.
So they have something very simple that states how minutes should be taken, and they also require that a copy of the meeting minutes need to be kept on file with the town's clerk office. They talk about documents and exhibits that don't need to be provided to the clerk but should be made available. And then they also state, in terms of a time frame, that all approved minutes must be made available to the public within a reasonable period of time, which is stated under the law. A time frame of 2 to 4 weeks is considered reasonable but not mandatory, to select and Watson's point. And then if meeting minutes are requested by the public per the open meeting law, they must be made available within 10 days. So that's something that falls under the town clerk's office. So we could take something very simple like this, and we could put it onto letterhead and include it as part of the policy, and then use that to attach and submit to all of the other boards and commissions and make them aware of this.
It sounds good. What do you think? Does it cover everything that you would need?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Ed, do you
And I
wanna
guess
make
the
a
only
motion?
hesitation is some of our boards that only meet once a year or twice a year, that's the problem with putting in a strict timeline. So it would be at their next meeting. And if the open meeting law states that as well, that
Yep.
it's within 2 weeks or at their next meeting.
Okay.
So as long as we include that.
Good. So do we want to make a motion to move that policy as Groveland's policy on
Make a
minutes?
motion, we adopt that policy.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any more discussion? There'll be none. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? There we go. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for your
You're
time tonight.
welcome. Thank you. You guys have
leave
been
this on.
very busy.
The next. person.
Yeah, leave it on if you would. We have, I think Mary Mart is up next. Change in hours. Okay. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Brian Chase. I'm an attorney in Haverhill. Address is 25D Washington Square. With me is,
Meredith Buckley, 37 Dwinell Street.
she is the manager of the licensee, Mary Mart, Inc. We were fortunate enough to have the liquor license approved in October, and at that time, I think the hours were set to be 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. As is consistent with the licensing laws, they're looking to change their license times, to set the license times to sell beer and wine from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. on Sunday. It's a addition of looks like an additional hour on
Okay.
those days.
All
I'm
right.
happy to answer any questions. The business isn't open yet. They expect to open, with any luck, next week.
Okay. Questions? Jason?
No.
Ed?
No, no.
Would someone wish to make the motion to extend the hours as requested in this letter? 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. on Sunday.
That is correct.
Yep.
I'll make the motion to approve the hours Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 11 p.m., Sunday, 10 a.m. to 10:30 PM.
And I'll second that.
Great, thank you. More discussion? There being none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Good, thank you for coming down.
Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Of course. Excuse me. Okay. Next is hazard mitigation planning. Such a great title. Hopefully, we don't have to ever do this, right?
Hi to the Select Board. Thank you so much for having me here tonight, and thank you to Rebecca and Annie who helped to coordinate our presence. My name is Hannah Mogensen. I'm from Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the hazard mitigation plan. I'm not sure if it's possible to show it up on the screen.
I'm going to pull it up on
Okay.
my screen. It'd just be easier that way.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. So Groveland has been working with 9 other communities in the region for the last almost 2 years now to update the Merrimack Valley Regional Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan. Following this comprehensive process, the plan was submitted to FEMA and MEMA for their review this fall, and they have approved our plan, putting in APA status, which means that it can be active once all of our communities adopt the plan. So I'm here tonight to just share a quick reminder of what's in the plan. I know I was before you guys this summer, so I won't go into that much detail. And then I'll tell you about the local adoption process, which is why I'm here tonight. Oh, thank you. That's wonderful. So quick reminder, hazard mitigation plans are comprehensive plans that outline all of the natural hazards that can occur within a community and then help a community to identify strategies and projects that can be taken on over the next 5 years to try to reduce that risk. Having a hazard mitigation plan is a requirement of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA. They require that all communities in the country have a plan and then update that once every 5 years. We completed the first Merrimack Valley Regional Plan in 2008. We updated it in 2016, and this is our second update of the plan itself. There are a number of benefits that come along with conducting a plan update and having a plan in place. The first is that undergoing the plan development and update allows you to get a comprehensive assessment and understanding of risk for your local community. You also develop a roadmap that helps you to reduce that risk moving forward. And lastly, and one of the biggest things, is that it qualifies your community for federal funding. So funding from FEMA, such as the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities grant funding, hazard mitigation grant funding, as well as flood mitigation assistance, are all only available to communities when they have an active plan in place. So right now, Groveland is eligible to receive emergency funding, but you are not eligible to receive any proactive funding to do planning. So once the plan is back in place, you'll be able to be eligible for that funding again.
Okay.
So we did have a total of 10 communities participating in this plan update, Groveland being one of them. The 5 other communities in the Merrimack Valley region that didn't opt into this regional update decided to conduct the update individually as a community based on other timelines or other parallel planning efforts they were doing. But a large majority of our communities were involved in this update, similar to the last 2. There are 5 main elements to the plan itself. The first is doing that natural hazard identification. Those are things like our winter storms, our droughts, our flooding. We assess all of those at the local level, and each community went through a comprehensive planning process to really understand which of those were impacting their community to the greatest degree. Following that, each community conducted a risk and vulnerability assessment to better understand where in their community was most vulnerable and what resources in their community were most vulnerable to these hazards. Using that information, the team developed very acute natural hazard statements that pointed out where risk was in their community. And we also did an existing resource planning process to understand what actions or programs are already in place that are helping us to reduce this. Lastly, understanding the gaps, the team developed mitigation strategies that could be advanced over those next 5 years. To update all of those 5 elements, your planning team walked through all of these steps. I will not go over them in great detail, but you can see it was a really extensive process. This was led by your lead representative, which was Rebecca Oldham, and also Annie Schindler. They really led this effort for your community, but you had broad representation and participation in this. You had representatives from your emergency management departments, police and fire, conservation and building, your highway department, and your utilities, including water and sewer, and your municipal light plant. So a lot of folks who are providing these critical resources were involved in this planning effort. When I saw you this summer, we were on step 8, which was conducting community engagement. We went through a 6-week public comment period. We integrated all of that feedback. We submitted the plans to FEMA and MEMA early this fall. They did give us some feedback that they wanted a little bit more information on some of the natural hazards, including identifying acute locations in which wildfires could occur in the region, which was very timely. They also wanted some additional information on some of our infrastructure and our high hazard infrastructure. So we worked with our lead reps. We integrated that into the plan and resubmitted it in November, and we did receive approval from FEMA and MEMA at the end of November. As I mentioned, they basically said our plan is comprehensive, has all the elements it needs, and satisfies all of their requirements. It is now put into what's called APA status, or approvable pending adoption. That basically means we're ready to take it to each of the participating communities, have it adopted at the local level, and then we can ask FEMA for them to reinstate and activate the plan. I do want to mention that this is a non-binding guidance document. So everything that's put in the plan, it serves as a guidance, a roadmap for you. You are not beholden to that, and you can make changes come the next 5 years if you see fit to reassess your priorities or add or remove projects that you didn't get to. So local adoption does indicate that the community feels that they've been directly involved in the planning process and that all the information in the plan is accurate. That's all. Approval is conducted by an affirmative vote by your select board, and a resolution signed by the select board chair indicates local adoption. As I mentioned, we're doing this with all 10 communities. 6 have already adopted the plan, so Groveland's number 7. We're here with you tonight. And once we have that resolution signed, we'll send all of them to FEMA for them to approve, reinstate the plan, and then you can use that the document moving forward as guidance. So I appreciate your time and consideration of the plan. I'm happy to answer questions as they might come up as you guys consider this vote. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Hannah. Any questions for Hannah? Yes.
Once reinstated, what is the date that it's reinstated? When's it effective?
And so as soon as FEMA issues their reinstatement, it will be that date.
It'll be that date, and it'll be good for 5 years.
Exactly.
So it was a 2-year process to get it approved.
Yes, and so it was, unfortunately, as you can tell by the kind of dates in which the plan had been updated, the 2008, 2016, and now, we hadn't come up, there was no consistent process to really make sure we're hitting that every 5 years. And so when we came to this year, because of FEMA's new requirements for the plan, we had to do a larger overhaul. We're expecting and anticipate that with the next 5-year update, it will be a much more succinct process, and we will start in advance of that 5-year deadline to make sure that we are not out of compliance. Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you.
Great. Ed?
Yeah, I got a couple questions.
Sure.
What happened to Georgetown, Newburyport, and Merrimack? How come they're not included?
Yeah, good question. So they undertook the update individually with their community based on other planning processes. So Newburyport was updating one of their plans a year ago and decided to integrate the hazard mitigation planning process into it. Georgetown did the same thing. They're doing theirs right now. So they were either on slightly different timelines or they were doing other planning efforts that complemented it. So they decided to take it on themselves.
Oh, all 3 of them, same way?
Yep.
Now, you mentioned grants. Now, what is this going to cost the town of Groveland?
It doesn't cost anything. So we received a grant from FEMA for my time to help the community. Your community did give some in-kind time through coming to meetings. So it's just staff time to be part of those meetings. But the plan itself didn't cost anything. We got a grant to pay for that.
And did I hear you mention that we don't have to follow the plan?
It's a guidance document. So I think the best part of the plan, the most robust portion, is a matrix at the end that identifies projects that your community can advance over the next 5 years. Having those listed in your plan is going to give your community a lot of power. When you apply for funding, a lot of times they ask, where has this need been identified? Being able to point back to a community-driven plan to say, we've identified it here, and we already know who would be responsible for helping to administer it, what the cost would be, what the need is, will really provide you some leverage in that. So we're hoping it's not a requirement, but it will give you leverage as you apply for funding to do projects.
Okay. I'm all set. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Anyone else? No?
No?
Thank you, Hannah. I mean, this has obviously been a process that took a lot of time and effort, and we certainly appreciate it. We appreciate the fact that it was paid for with a grant. That's always great. Appreciate town administrator's time and Annie Schindler's time as well, because it wouldn't have gone anywhere without the local support. So
Yes, a big thank you to your local planning team. They were
Right.
essential in doing this work, so we
Right,
really
and-
appreciate it.
And it's something that helps this town look ahead so that, things are identified in that matrix that are potential problems in the town. And, then they say, did you identify it? We can say, yep, we did it. Well, we didn't, you did, but thank you for
Your
that.
team did, absolutely.
Right, so do we need to vote this whole motion? Do we need to read the whole motion, or do we need to just say that we're going to adopt it?
I would say we need to vote the entire resolution, the motion for
And
the,
Mark's not even here to read it. I'll get to talk to him. Okay, so I'll read it, and then we can move it. It's a resolution of the Town of Groveland adopting the Merrimack Valley Region Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan, January 2025, whereas the Town of Groveland recognizes the threat that natural hazards pose to people and property within the town, and whereas the Town of Groveland has prepared a multi-hazard mitigation plan, hereby known as the Merrimack Valley Region Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan 2024, in accordance with federal laws, including the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, as amended, the Natural Flood Insurance Act of 1968, as amended, and the Natural Dam Safety Program Act, as amended. And whereas the Merrimack Valley Region Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan 2024 identified mitigation goals and actions to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to people and property in the town of Groveland from impacts of future hazards and disasters, and whereas adoption by the town of Groveland demonstrates its commitment to hazard mitigation and achieving the goals outlined in the Merrimack Valley Region Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan 2024, now therefore be it resolved by the town of Groveland, Massachusetts, that Section 1, in accordance with MGL 40, Section 4, or the Charter and Ordinances of the Town of Groveland, the Groveland Select Board adopts the Merrimack Valley Region Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan 2024. That's it.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? There be none. All in favor? Okay, and so it is adopted on January 6th, and it's unanimous, 4 in favor and 1 absent. We don't need to do roll call or anything, do we? No. Okay. All right, so thank you so much.
Thank you all so much,
Appreciate-
and thank you for reading that very long resolution. I appreciate it.
It's a lot of whereases. Thank you so much. Okay. So next on our agenda is the update on the MBTA communities, the 3A zoning requirements, and I had asked our town administrator to just recap it again, because it is an important meeting on January 30th. It would be good to have members of the select board present as well, and it is something that I think we need to move on.
thank you. So at the request of the chair, I had reached out to the consultant to see if she would be willing to share some of the slides that were shared with the public during the initial public workshop to give a recap to the select board in efforts to, again, reintroduce this concept and what it is that's before us. So they thankfully helped put together some of the slides that you'll see. For those that attended the meeting back in the fall, you'll see that they're very similar slides. But we do have some new slides, and those slides are the options that will be put before the town for consideration and discussed at the meeting on January 30th at 6:30 here at Town Hall. So what is the zoning study all about? So this is about the Groveland's current regulations to align with the community's evolving housing needs and preferences and explore the best option for complying with Section 3A. So what does Section 3A mean for the town? So this is a law that was passed in 2021 to establish a requirement that each of the 177 designated MBTA communities must have zoning that has one district which allows for multifamily housing permitted as of right. It cannot have an age restriction and shall be suitable for families with children, must have a minimum gross density of 15 dwelling units per acre, and part of the district must be located within 0.5 miles of the commuter rail, subway, ferry, or bus station. So Groveland is considered an adjacent small-town community, and that is because of the proximity to Haverhill, which is serviced by the commuter rail, and a small town because of its year-round population of less than 7,000. So for Groveland, that means that we must have a minimum unit capacity of 130 units, and the minimum density requirement being the 15 dwelling units per acre. So what is 3A not? Something that's really important to note, it is not a mandate to build housing. It is a mandate to have a district that allows for a type of housing by right. We do not need to produce any units as part of the passage of this particular mandate. It is not a housing production target. We are not required to meet the unit capacity number that we are putting forward. It is not restricted to affordable housing, so it can allow for market rate. And this is not the only housing tool that we have at our disposal in efforts to promote housing here in Groveland and the characteristic that the community would like to see. So what does multifamily housing look like? A lot of the times we have this conversation that you're going to see Avalon-style large apartment-type buildings in efforts to produce multifamily housing, and that's not the case. In this slide, you'll see that there's many forms of housing that we classify as missing middle housing, which can be smaller to the 3 or more residential dwelling units. So locating the unit capacity. So under the law, there's certain areas of land that you cannot use towards your calculation, and that is excluded land. And that includes land that's not available or available but other considerations, which is sensitive land. So you'll see, and I know it's really hard in the slide, but Groveland has a big area of land that is excluded land that you would not be able to identify as an area within the district that would comply with a mandate by the state. And in this slide, you'll see, again, sorry, it is a little difficult to read, where it would be appropriate to put housing based upon the proximity to services, amenities, and where you're finding more of those dense areas in Groveland already. So the areas that we sat down and we discussed with the consultant are the ones that you'll see before you. And again, these are the options that we will be discussing with the public at the workshop on January 30th at 6:30 here at Town Hall. So the existing zoning dimensions are as follows. So you have your R2 district, your R3 district, and your industrial. The minimum lot sizes for the R2 is 30,000, for the R3 it's 20,000, and for industrial it's 43,560. And then you'll see your minimum front setbacks, side setbacks, height, etc. You'll also see that in Groveland, we do not allow any multifamily dwellings in any zoning districts. So option 1 that was proposed was Perry Park. And you'll see that some of those already in existence have 2-family and 3-family buildings. And that's 6 acres right there.
Right, but we don't allow that, but we have it, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So when the zoning was changed, it was changed to not allow for multifamily housing. But pre-zoning, there was multifamily housing
Okay.
because when the town was developed, a lot of the housing had multifamilies.
Okay.
So then your option 2 is Union to Gardner Street. So they're very close to town, the town center, and there's already some 2-family houses that exist in the area, and that's 12 acres. And then you'll see School and Pleasant Street, and it abuts the town center. And again, there are some other 2 families in that particular area. And then option 4 was Washington Street and Main Street. And again, there's already some 2-family houses in existence, and that's about 20 acres. So those are the options before that are being presented by the consultant at the meeting on January 30th. We do have those up on the website. So if you go to our website, grovelandma.com, you go to the projects and grants page and you click on the MBTA 3A zoning, you'll be able to connect to the project site that has all of these listed. It is interactive, so you can zoom in, you can see a little bit more of the details. It does show, again, the other 2 maps that were shown with the colors and the details and a little bit more detail that you can play around with instead of seeing it on the screen up above. And then as well as a flyer that was included in your packet that we will start to advertise via social media on the website. We will be posting it on the community TV. We will also be posting flyers out in the hall and at some of the other locations, trying to get as much engagement as we possibly can. So That's just a brief rundown. Again, more of the information will be shared with the consultant for a more in-depth type of conversation, but I did want to show some of the options that were being presented to garner some interest and to show you exactly what we're dealing with, because I think one of the biggest things, again, that we need to note is that this is not going to produce housing the way that one might think. We are looking to create a district in order to comply, therefore allowing us to receive some of this essential grant funding that we have been able to capitalize on that will not be available to us if we do not move forward. I personally feel as though that there is more housing development that will be generated through the passage of the accessory dwelling units than what could potentially be built and constructed per the MBTA 3A zoning mandate. As you can see, the areas that we've identified already have housing units on them. They are not vacant open land, so it is not something that is readily available to somebody to just knock down a bunch of houses and put up what you would deem to be multifamily housing that you wouldn't want to see in your community. And the zoning that we're putting in place does allow you some control over what that multifamily housing can look like if something was to be built. But taking a look at the district that we have versus some of the districts that some of the larger communities have put forward that will produce and have produced units, it's a much smaller scale for Groveland, and the areas identified do give us a lot more flexibility. So I do hope that the board will attend the meeting on January 30th and be engaged, and if you cannot, if there's any feedback or questions or anything of that nature, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to either answer them, and when I cannot answer, I can get in touch with our consultant, Emily Innes, with Innes Associates, who have been guiding this effort through a community planning grant that we received from the state.
Okay. And so the end game here is the planning board needs to vote on this at some point. Is that it?
So essentially, in order for zoning to be passed, it must go through a public hearing process, and that body that hears that is the planning board. So the planning board, with any zoning amendment and/or zoning proposal change, would need to hear that at a public hearing that's been properly posted and noticed before it gets to town meeting.
Okay. Do we have to do this for this year's town meeting? Is there any risk to
We
not?
do have a deadline of December 30th, 2025 in efforts to pass and become compliant. I do know that other communities who have not been successful in their efforts because they are not adjacent communities, they must comply, they have a commuter rail station in their community,
Right.
who have failed to pass, have actually had grant monies rescinded already.
Okay. It's good to know. Any more questions?
No, just a comment. If you're following it, it seems to be the list of communities are growing that are opposed to this and want to withdraw. It seems like every few weeks you get another community that is petitioning to not participate. We have, I think the nearest one we have here is North Andover, is looking to oppose this. So I think we ought to listen to what they have to say too. Some of the communities around Boston are looking to oppose it. I think it was Lexington passed it overwhelmingly. I think it was Lexington. But some of these communities don't want to participate after this was passed by, signed by the governor.
I guess what I've read and researched and heard, we're under the 7,000 cap population-wise, so that puts us in a better situation than the larger communities in terms of this compliance. At least that's my understanding of what I read. It's funny, we say we don't want to be like the people around us, but when it suits us, we do want to follow the herd. I like to try and read through things, and this I asked to come up on our agenda because I'm still kind of figuring it out in my head, and I figured that a lot of people in town, and especially people that live in those areas, would want to understand if there's going to be a change in zoning, but I think that is it the bigger towns that are having to meet those other requirements? Is that sometimes you hear information that seems to suggest that these MBTA communities are going to have to build a certain amount of housing.
So they have a certain higher threshold. We only have the 177 units, but they, being the other communities, I forget the amount, but they have a higher threshold of units that they need to produce. But they also have commuter rail stations, so they do have the ability to, I know Havel's has the ability to create the housing. I thought it was Andover or North Andover, I forget which one, but they also are taking advantage of the opportunity to produce the housing. So there is a need for housing, and this is giving some communities the ability to promote that housing in a fashion that is, provides services and amenities in an area in which it would be conveniently located because you're close to a commuter rail station, so you don't need to have a car, so that you can jump on the train, you can get to Boston. So I think that the larger communities have a little bit greater flexibility when they're located right near a commuter rail station, where it does offer that again, that flexibility for them to travel and commute.
Right. I mean, that would explain why Haverhill's building it right where the old roller rink used to be, right at the train station. That big development there. But we're not under that kind of requirement because we don't have a train station. So we're under the lesser requirement.
Correct, we're an
Okay.
adjacent community. I'm just
Right,
trying to look up
right.
right now what the non-adjacent community, what the lot requirement is, because I do know it's more. I believe it's 750 units.
That sounds right.
And for the town of Reading, it's showing the zoning needs to allow a capacity of at least 750 multifamily units by right, and they have a commuter rail station in their
Right.
community.
So that the ones that have the commuter rail have a much higher threshold than we would have. And we certainly do take advantage of grants to do a lot of the projects in this town. So I think it's a serious concern. As a planning board, will be present at this, do you think?
So there were a couple of members that were present at the
Okay.
first workshop, and I assume that they will be present at the next. I do have a planning board meeting tomorrow evening, so I will be showing them the same slides and allowing them to look at the options briefly so that we can, again, ignite some interest for individuals to show up to the meeting on the 30th to participate.
Okay, great. All right.
And then Kathy, I had just a comment on that.
Go ahead.
I mean, I know you're already reiterating this, but just explaining to people how important it is to be educated about this, because essentially this is really just, it's a zoning change. It's a zoning requirement, not a building requirement, right? So I think there's a lot of misinformation that there's a requirement to build, and it's just a requirement for zoning. And basically, town meeting, my understanding is basically the people of the town, the residents will vote whether or not we comply with the law. Are you going with the law, or are you going against the law? When you go against the law, there's consequences. You lose out on grant money, and there could be a possible lawsuit. So I just cannot reiterate enough how important it is to be educated, attend this session, reach out to the town administrator with any questions, because misinformation is very easy to fly around with a topic like this. And it's too important to make a vote at town meeting without knowing what you're voting for or voting against.
Right. So we will have people from what organization will be there to answer questions that,
So we are working with our consultant and his associates. So Emily Innes will be present to provide any additional information and to walk us through all of the requirements. She actually was instrumental in working to update those guidelines with the state. So we have a good team working with us.
right. I do think there's a lot of confusion about this MBTA community thing because it's affecting towns that have a railroad station a lot differently than the adjacent communities. And it's a matter of people have to get as much information as possible to make sure that they take the best possible vote on this when we go to a town meeting. you know, if the planning board sends it forward to town meeting, it will be at this spring town meeting, is that right? That's the plan at this point, I would assume. If we're supposed to do something
Yes,
by
spring town
December.
meeting.
Correct.
Okay, that's right, I keep forgetting, we have a planning board member right sitting next to me.
And I misspoke. In terms of the units that are required per community, especially those that are the main communities, it's calculated using the existing total housing units. The commuter rail is 15%. So by 15%, yes. So each community that has a commuter rail station would vary. So it would be 754 North Reading, but for Billerica, it's 2,323. So each community that has a community rail station and bus will vary depending on their existing housings.
Right.
I've just been super focused on Groveland, so I really haven't been focused on
No.
any other unit requirements, so my
Well,
apologies
it's
for
actually
misspeaking.
important because some of the news reporting has been from the communities with the rail stations, so you start to listen to those arguments and you go, whoa, this sounds scary, you know, but we're in a different category, and it's really important to note that. I mentioned West Newbury is in our category as well?
Correct.
Okay, and Merrimack too, right? They don't have a rail.
Well, adjacent, correct.
Okay. So we can always reach out to them as well, see what they've been doing. Are they doing
I
the
believe they
same-
had it on their town meeting warrant for the fall, and then it was tabled, so they did not bring it forward. I know that the town of Newbury did pass their zoning at their town meeting in the fall.
Okay.
And I'm not sure where Merrimack is in the process.
Okay. All right. Well, as we find out more information, we'll share it forward. Okay, thank you for doing that update. Does anybody have any more questions on it? No, except just please circle that date, Thursday, January 30th, and try to come to the meeting. Next on our agenda is appointments and resignations, and, excuse me, cough still. I believe we have one appointment to the Council on Aging. Am I right on that? I'm scrolling through pages.
I'll make a motion to appoint Sharon Hines to the
Thank you.
Council of Aging Board of Directors effective January 6, 2025.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? She comes to us with some nice qualifications and volunteerism in other towns as well as ours, so I think she'll be a great addition. All in favor? It's unanimous with one absent. Okay. That was our only appointment, I believe. I'm still scrolling. Too many pages. Older unfinished business. Oh, no, sorry, approval of minutes. We do have two sets of minutes. I reviewed both of them. I thought they were in order. Has everybody else had an opportunity? Make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Select Board meeting minutes for November 25th, 2024, and December 9th, 2024.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? There being none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. 2 minutes from November 25th, 2024, December 9th, 2024, approved with one absent. Next is older unfinished business. Do we have any older unfinished business? There being none, I'll move on. Items not reasonably anticipated, I'm not aware of anything. No? Yes?
Yeah, I think we should put this trash and recycling bit on the agenda at each meeting until we decide what's going to happen with this. It's an important issue.
Yep.
Affects everybody. And I know that the Trash and Recycling Committee meets, I think it's Thursday night. They're going to look at how to proceed with the survey. Do we have any idea how much response we've got on the survey?
We've had a pretty strong response.
Oh,
Rebecca?
well, what do you
So
recall?
the number keeps growing, but this afternoon it was 616.
How many?
616.
616, wow, that's impressive.
That's pretty good for a pushed-out survey,
It's the
so,
largest survey, response that we've ever seen, at least in my 6 years of being here.
I know, we gotta figure out how to make this happen on other issues that we put out there. So we do have a good response at some point, based on what the select board decides, we'll stop the survey, but for now, I figured to just keep it running, if that's okay with everybody on this board, let it keep rolling.
Yeah, because you're still getting responses, you said even today, right?
Yep.
They're still coming in.
That's great. And also, I'll offer up again, I thought I said at the last meeting that public comment is open, and if somebody wants to come, as Mr. Hodges did, and raise some questions and concerns, or make some statements about trash and recycling, we're here to listen. So people are welcome to come and just let the town administrator know that you'd like to speak. It helps us to know in advance how many people would like to speak. That's all I'd ask. But yes, I agree with you, Ed, that we'll keep it on the agenda, and under old and unfinished business, we'll just keep it rolling.
Are you going to schedule public hearings on that? Public hearings so people can come in and actually voice their opinion?
That's what yes, I just did that.
No, I
said-
mean, put it on the agenda and put it in actually a public hearing that we could, that the people would know about to come in and speak about it, not just under public comment.
Okay, I understand. So what I would suggest then is to wait until we summarize the survey data a little bit better, right? So that we can release the survey data from the board and then let people come in and comment? How does that sound? I mean, I'd rather give them some information, don't you think?
I think the people ought to weigh in on it even before it's
But-
decided on, because they may be able to sway members of the Trash and Recycling Committee to go a certain way.
Okay, so you're asking for an agenda item where the board allows, how much time do you want to put?
I don't know.
Anybody suggestion? I mean, I feel like extending the public comment period is a good vehicle, but if you wanted to be more,
Well, I really like the idea of having an agenda item, just so we can actually discuss it.
and then they
So
can
we
weigh
can, we
in.
can discuss back and forth with the people that come in and make their comments.
Correct.
I mean, when Brian came in, he made some great comments, and I did enjoy listening to him talk.
Okay, so we'll
and-
put it under old and unfinished?
Well, I concur with Jason that somebody, just because they come in under public comment, if you read the rules and regulations, we're not supposed to be commenting on what they say in a public comment. So I think
Right.
we should be able to ask questions, and they should be able to ask questions to us so that we can answer them.
Yes, I agree. But again, I just want to point out that the public comment period is utilized not just by us, but by like the school board on the masking question. When you have issues that perhaps more than a few people want to speak on, the public comment flows more quickly. We saw that with the school, the program at the Bagnell School that allowed several people to speak. With the Garrison Street, the same thing. But we can certainly put on the agenda. The only thing I would say is that the board is meeting, the board is discussing, and then there has to be determination of how many people you want to have interacting with the board before the board is no longer meeting. We're asking questions and back and forth into other people. So I want to make sure that we look at the survey data, because that's over 600 people giving us their feedback. That's more than we'll ever get in this room here. And then, yes, open discussion, and that is exactly what the Trash and Recycling Committee will be doing Thursday, again, looking at the survey data and discussing the trash and recycling options. So it'll be under old and unfinished business from now all the way through town meeting and beyond, I would say. Does that sound good? Okay. All right, so now we're up to town administrator's time.
Thank you. So I just have a brief memo that I provided you earlier this evening. So for town hall operations, we've really just been focused on the fiscal year 2026 budget. We're continuing to finalize the budget. We are missing key figures that are still pending, specifically the Pentucket Regional School District, the Whittier Technical Regional School District, and the North Shore Essex Technical School assessment numbers. We have yet to receive that information. Additionally, we are waiting for the GIC increase. Last year, it was approximately 10%, so we're hoping that it'll be much less. In former years, it was about a 6% increase year to year, which is a little bit more feasible. We have received the final appropriation for the Essex County Regional Retirement. This has increased 2% over last year, which is a huge improvement compared to last year, which was a 27% increase and was very challenging for us in order to find funding. We did end up having to not fund one of the positions in the library last year, trying to prioritize and to make sure that we had adequate funding in place for our departments to operate, as well as trying to provide everybody a 2% cost of living increase. The current estimate for the trash collection this upcoming fiscal year is approximately $886,700. This is based on an estimate with the tonnage that we've seen over the last few months and the last year, in addition to the contract that we have in place with Waste Management for the hauling side of the contract and the tipping fee. Then we also have been awarded a 2-year rate guarantee for the property, casualty, and professional liability insurance for last fiscal year and this fiscal year. So we're looking at a 2.5% increase this year. So that is also a good thing for us. We do have to take into consideration workers' compensation audit, as well as any additional claims or additional appraisals and order adjustments that happen throughout the year. So we will be taking that into consideration before finalizing that number for the budget. On the revenue side, as you all know, the governor has yet to propose her budget, so we do not have our local aid numbers, and the cherry sheet has not been released. We are currently working with projections. We don't necessarily see a large increase in our state aid, but we do depend on that funding in order to give us some additional monies to add to our operational budget. For our just general 2.5%, we are looking at an estimated property tax collection of $18,878,705. This is depending on new growth. This is an estimate that we put forward. We try and be very conservative with that because we don't want to project more revenue than we take in and find ourselves in a shortfall. The tax collection does not include the excluded debt that we have for the Pentucket Regional Middle High School building, as well as the fire truck purchase or the purchase of 150 Center Street. So we are working to finalize these numbers. All of the departments were required to submit their budgets as of December 31st, 2024. They have done so. So we're just looking to finalize some of those other numbers so that we can provide that information to the Select Board as well as the Finance Board. I believe that they will start beginning their meetings with the department, not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. For project requests and residential concerns, I'm sure all of you received the email from the resident on Wharf Drive, so I did want to make sure that the board was aware that we did reach out to the individual about the damage to the property. It is an identified public right-of-way, and it is town property in which received the damage, but the highway department will be installing stakes to better delineate the road and the sidewalk. And the highway department plans to address any damage to the town grass area and remove any gravel or thrown debris on the homeowner's property come the springtime. For field use and property use and special event permits, we issued a 2025 special permit 1 for the Groveland Day event that will be held on Friday, September 5th, 2025, and Saturday, September 6th, 2025, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. On Friday is their annual cornhole tournament and gathering that they have, so that's why you see the Friday event as well. For important upcoming dates, Town Hall will be closed on Monday, January 20th in observance of Martin Luther King Day. That is also a reminder to the board that our meeting will be pushed to Tuesday, January 21st. And then again, housing workshop is on January 30th at 6:30 p.m. here at Town Hall. For grants, there's no updates at this time. Procurement, no updates. Technical review conferences, there were no meetings that were held. For community preservation projects, applications for 2025 were due on December 30th, 2024, and will be reviewed by the Community Preservation Committee. For meetings, events, and seminars, you'll see that it was a little light due to the fact that of the holiday season. But one thing to highlight is today I was invited to the Whittier Technical Regional School to sit down with the other communities to figure out who we would be putting forward for the teacher negotiations. So per our agreement, we are required to put forward a municipal representative to participate in those conversations. So we had that meeting this morning. A vote or a candidate was not put forward at this time. There were some discussions. I believe that the town manager in Ipswich, as well as the town manager in Georgetown, agreed that they might be able to get some time to put forward to these conversations. But again, nothing was finalized, and they needed to run it by their boards to make sure that they would be able to do so. So just wanted to highlight that for you all. And then also to put on the record that I did provide the board via email the application for Etsy Park that is being reviewed by the planning board. That is a site plan approval as well as an aquifer protection overlay permit. I will be putting that on the agenda for a discussion and comment if there is any comments that the select board would like to share with the planning board. But I did want to make sure that you had it under correspondence so that you could review that application and have time to go over it before offering any comments. But I'll take any questions if there's anything related to the topics that I just brought forward.
The SD Way, it's not in the digital, is it a second document?
It was a second
Okay,
attachment on
yep,
the email.
That's fine, I thought I saw a second one too, yeah, okay. No, I'm all set, are you all set?
I'm all set, yeah.
You all set, Ed?
I don't have any questions.
Okay, do you want to make a motion to adjourn at 7:55? Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, January 21st, right?
Selectmen's time.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, you
Blew
can
right
say
by.
that.
Usually I go past Rebecca. Selectmen's time, please go forward.
I don't have anything.
Oh,
Well, I mean, that's normally when we request things to be put on the agenda, but that had already been done.
okay.
I
Well,
don't
don't
have-
you want to say anything?
I don't have anything good today,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ed?
No.
No? I don't have anything new to say. I just, I think as we get into the budget of the town, hearing some of the comments and people's, I think that we need to do a better job communicating what part of the tax rate is capped at 2.5% and under our control, and what part is the debt exclusion that comes to us through a school assessment that we don't have control over. It's an override. And a better understanding of how much of the budget is either an assessment that we don't control or a fixed cost like insurance that we don't control, so that when it comes time to find, even in a $20 million budget, even something as small as, $30,000, it comes down to having to cut a position, as our town administrator said, in balancing last year's budget. I've seen too many comments that we've hired new positions and what's going on, and wow, I think we just need to educate people on how we run this. This town government is run with a skeleton staff, with a very small amount of staff compared to similar towns. Our town clerk is full-time, her assistant is not full-time. Board of Health has a part-time person in there, everybody in there is part-time. Town administrator, not only full-time, but sometimes around the clock. I mean, it's insane, and she's wearing two hats. She's our town planner right now, which is entirely not what we had planned to do with that position. So it doesn't come down to, do you love Groveland the way it is? I love Groveland the way it is. But it comes down to, do you want to preserve Groveland the way it is and make it the great community that it is to live in and keep it looking beautiful and well-run? And the answer for me is yes. And you don't do that by cutting positions in your town government, because we hardly have any positions to begin with. So I will personally make sure that I communicate better out to the public how tight the budget is and why, $30,000 we can't find in a $20 million budget. Because that's the reality of what we do every year. And I know I struggle with it. I know our town staff struggles with it. They're fearful of it. They worry about it every year. Everybody involved in the budget process, the financial board, I know worries about it every year. So I want to make sure that there's an understanding of what it is, how it works, and that we have not had an override. Last year, we held the line. Okay, since the school override, we have not had an override, and we're trying to hold the line still. Okay, that's all. Take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn at 8:57.
How about 7:57?
7:57.
I know, I think I said it wrong to begin with.
I'll
Thank you.
second that.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor? It's unanimous with one absent. Thank you.
We have that,
Yep. Sign things.